welcome to On Leading with Greatness. I'm Jim Salvucci of Guidance for Greatness. This week's installment, and some numbers are made up on the spot. Dear landlord, please don't put a price on my soul. Bob Dylan. Have you ever had a boss who valued numbers above all else? The kind of person who gets all bogged down in a minutia and can't see the big picture? I had one of those bosses, the provost of a small university in charge of all things academic, and I would have found his antics hilarious if the consequences weren't so dire. Simply put, my boss never met a number he couldn't misunderstand. He was obsessed with metrics and spreadsheets, costs and quantities. The saying, "Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts," was utterly meaningless to him. You might as well be babbling in gibberish. Numbers for him were the be-all and the end-all, an unassailable authority that represented all substance and significance. The sad irony was that as much as he loved numbers, he rarely grasped their true meaning. To quote Oscar Wilde, he knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. I could regale you with myriad stories of his numerical misadventures, but let me share just one, a personal favorite. This university prided and marketed itself on providing a personal educational experience through individual attention. We touted our small class sizes, our one-on-one time with faculty, our open-door policies, and our respectable student-to-teacher ratio. On average, our classes had just 17 students, which was pretty good, but a sharp downturn from the 15-student average of just a few years prior. Despite all this, my numbers-loving boss took it on himself to save a few bucks at the expense of increasing the average class size once again. So what if larger classes went against our brand? Soon he was boasting how class sizes now averaged 19. It's like gushing about the shitty mileage a car got on a cross-country road trip. "Oh, yep, we had to pull over every couple hours to get gas, we did. Sweet." I tried to explain to him that this increase would disproportionately burden faculty who taught the very courses where we needed to provide the most handholding. He waved me off, insisting that no one's going to notice 2 more students in their classroom. Note that in his number-addled brain, an average of 2 more students per class meant that every class would get precisely 2 more students, and even dispersal. No surprise, though. The distribution in reality was wildly variable, which he denied. End of discussion. Nothing could budge his stubbornness or shake his misbegotten pride, even though his choices meant we could never rise as an institution above the mediocre. Why we number? Why do we put so much undue stock in numbers? Sure, quantification and measurement are vital tools, except when they ain't. Not everything that can be counted counts. But we imbue numbers with a near mystical momentousness, granting them more authority than they deserve, as though they are the final word or even the only word. So what's the downside? For one thing, our hyper-privileging of numbers induces people to game the system, as we see in the prevalence of Goodhart's law. And what about those sketchy politicians who notoriously use numbers to deceive and misdirect with their lies, damn lies, and statistics? Even media outlets regularly broadcast dubious but accurate-seeming poll numbers just to attract more viewers. Meanwhile, we overlook more qualitative yet meaningful measurements. Of course, numbers are not inherently untrustworthy. Far from it. Quantitative analysis is an immensely powerful tool for understanding the world around us. But we have to be careful not to fetishize it, to elevate numbers above all other forms of knowledge and evaluation. And importantly, unlike my former boss, we need to comprehend the true meaning of numbers if we are going to rely on them. For instance, let's say that a recent political poll shows candidate A beating candidate B by 3 points with a margin of error of 4 points. Who is really in the lead? Hint, it's a trick question. You see this sort of thing in employers' handling of workloads. I've written before on how measuring time on task is a poor substitute for assessing productivity. Still, countless bosses cling to the formula that butts in desk chairs equals efficiency, an argument that features prominently in debate over working from home. And don't even get me started on those poorly executed and arbitrary task percentage breakdowns, which divvy days up into neat little parcels, as though that is a measure of productivity. Too often it's not even clear what exactly the percentages measure. Is it time on task, effort, outcomes, or something else altogether? We have this compulsion to make things look more scientific by citing numbers even when they are meaningless. In The Three Cultures, Jerome Kagan argues that early economists intentionally chose to emulate natural scientists in a bid to fast-track the credibility of their emerging field. To do so, they leaned heavily into quantitative methodologies to the near exclusion of the mix of approaches employed by their fellow social sciences for more established disciplines. Only in recent decades has the field begun changing its ways. Have you ever hung a picture on a wall? It makes sense to use a level to get it perfect, right? But leveling it perfectly makes it look crooked relative to the floor and ceiling. Therefore, in order to make it look straight, you must actually hang the picture crooked. Numerical measurements are precise, yes, but they are only one way to achieve accuracy. A statistical gag. All of this is why I love to trot out my version of an old joke. Are you ready? Here it goes. Of course, 47.8% of all statistics are made up on the spot. You know the joke has landed when everyone nods a bit in ready agreement and then seconds later chuckles. The delivery is key, that slippery of course followed by the precise-sounding decimal. The gag works best if you keep the percentage just below 50% so that it sounds significant, but still falls short so that it seems plausible. It's a subtle jab at our tendency to accept numerical claims at face value, no matter how dubious they may be. Try it sometime. Maybe the next time you are at a meeting where everyone is furiously scribbling down every number that gets bandied about. Chances are they'll start jotting down your faux statistic before you even finish the sentence. It's a great way to snap people out of their numerical trance and get them to actually think about what the numbers mean, or don't mean. Because at the end of the day, while numbers are vital, numbers are useful, and numbers offer insight into reality that is inaccessible to other forms of analysis, numbers are just one tool in that analytical toolkit. Sometimes the most important things are unquantifiable, which is when we must rely on discernment, intuition, aesthetics, logic, and other more qualitative assessments. Whatever your form of analysis, qualitative, quantitative, or a healthy mix, you must be sure to understand what it all really means. So if you ever find yourself under the sway of a numbers-obsessed boss or a statistics-spouting pundit, take a step back and ask yourself, what's the real story here? Because I can guarantee you it's not always the one the numbers are telling. How well do you understand the numbers you rely on? How effectively do you blend qualitative and quantitative assessments? Great leaders need to know how to utilize many tools and methodologies, and I can help. Unlock the great leader within. Download my free resource, the Transform to Greatness Toolkit, now at www.thegreatleadershiptoolkit.com. Look forward to hearing from you.